Hi, this is Lisa Tomey. I have David Martin here from Fine Lines. Hey, David, how you doing today?
Well, I'm just fine. Thank you for co-hosting this and interviewing, and I appreciate all your help.
Oh, definitely. It's my privilege and my pleasure. I would like to talk today about journaling. I know that's something that's really important. And actually, I just started taking a journaling class, although I've journaled before, but I'm taking a directive class on journaling. And I'm really excited about it. I know that one of the things about journaling, because I did the artist way, where every morning you get up and you write for so many minutes, just free flow to kind of get your thoughts organized for the day. What kind of benefit do you see from journaling?
Well, I think I love everything Julia Cameron has written, and The Artist's Way is the most wonderful book, and I've used it myself for several years. I kept a multiple journals and let her guide me through many of them. I'd recommend that to any new writer or any writer who wants to pump up their game or move to a higher level.
Hmm.
Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. That's a great way to start to talk about journaling.
Absolutely. She was kind of the
I
queen
really
of
like,
journaling.
journaling is taken in different ways. So I kind of want to clarify how I think of journaling.
Hmm.
Young people think often that journaling and keeping a diary are the same thing, and that is not how I see those two words. My humble opinion, a diary is just keeping a ledger of the events that happened during the day, including what you ate for breakfast and lunch and supper. Um, I've had some students get that detailed, keeping a diary, but keeping a journal is broader, wider, deeper, going into the heart and soul of an individual. And actually, if you use a dictionary and go to the word journal, it is a daily record of occurrences, experiences, observations, and ideas. The key word is daily.
Right.
And I went farther back, looking at the etymology of the word journal. Many newspapers are called such and such journal, and
Hmm.
that means they are published and come out and can be read daily.
Hmm.
Periodical or a magazine could be something published for a special group, society, or a profession. It's like, in some instances, it's called a day book, to write self-examining or reflective essays. A part of psychotherapy uses keeping a journal, and I've known some psychologists and psychiatrists, and they think that most of them think that keeping a journal is one of the biggest parts of helping individuals as patients. But if you really love language, you can go back farther than that. How about going back to 1325? That was the first recorded instance of using the word journal in Middle English, and it came from Old French, which meant daily. And you can go all the way back to late Latin, and they used in Latin the word diurnal, 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 which was the Latin word for daily. We've got synonyms for journal that include tabloid and publication review, annals, magazine, paper, and so on. So put all that together, that's a lot. The word is powerful because it covers so many levels, strata of culture and society. So if I'm in a class and I say, as an instructor, I want students to keep a journal, I don't mean diary. I would like people to first know themselves. If a person is going to be a writer or an artist, probably in any level of art, I'm convinced in my own mind that the best artists are the ones who know themselves the best. And then by knowing who they are, what they love, what about art pulls them into that process of creativity, then they can become a better, improved performer, sculptor, painter, photographer, writer in any art form. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
George Orwell, paraphrased, said, good writing is like a window pane. Good writing is like a window pane. And our Fine Lines editors get submissions every day, and we hope to assist developing writers see through their windows more deeply, more clearly. The bottom line of our efforts in the Fine Lines project is to help writers develop their full potential, and keeping a journal is one tool, a very powerful tool that I've found that will help young writers of all ages, from second grade to silver-haired writers who maybe are just getting started reflecting on their life experiences. I am totally convinced that keeping a journal is the best tool a serious writer of any age in any genre can have. That's how passionate I am about journal writing. I've written every day in my journal, every day, 365 days a year for over 35 years.
Do you have a set amount of time that you write, or you just write until you're done?
Well, you brought up The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, someone that I totally respect, has talked about you can keep a journal in 100 different ways. The secret is to just write, darn it, just write. And if you want to write with a pen and paper, go for it. Just write. If you type faster, if it's better for you, use a keyboard, use a computer, save your writing. The secret is discipline. A lot of people start to shudder and shake and sweat when they use that word because it has such a negative connotation. But any artist who wants to improve must use discipline, and you can define discipline in 100 different ways, and every individual artist can use discipline in a unique way that works for them. I have found that the best discipline, besides keeping a journal daily, is to write at the same time daily in whatever form works for you. Pen, paper, pencil, computer. I had a high school student years ago who only could write effectively when she used crayons. We're talking a junior in high school. I said, some of those colors are hard to see. And she snapped right back at me and said, well, this journal is not for you, it's for me. And she was totally right.
Yeah.
Then when you start thinking you want the reader of your writing to be more involved, you have to consider how they're going to see your work. That's another issue. But writing at the same time every day is like an athlete going to the basketball court at the same time every day. The mind, the heart, the muscles are geared to performing in a certain way in a certain place at a certain time. And goodness, I have writers I know that do their best work after 2 a.m. in the morning when I'm sound asleep.
Yep.
And I just wonder how in the world their bodies work like that, because I am up at 4 a.m. and ready to work, which means
Mhm.
I go to bed early, I get up early. But I know people go to bed late and get up late and can outperform me. So what works for the individual is part of getting to know who that individual is,
Yeah.
which is why we keep a journal, which was my initial comment.
Well, you talked about, muscle memory, journaling does help you train your writing. And I know for me, if I don't write, like sometimes on the weekend, I take a little bit of a break from the pen. And the first thing that happens to me is I want to grab the pen. I am used to writing, conditioned to write, to the point where always make sure I have paper and pen with me wherever I go. If I happen to be stuck, I'll find a napkin, I'll find a scrap somewhere, and I'll write. One time I grabbed a newspaper and started writing on it and actually created some blockout poetry with it. So, I mean, you develop that muscle memory, so you must write. It becomes a part of your living and breathing.
How true, how true. So I want to make it clear that I believe everyone should keep a journal, no matter what your occupation. If you want to be a football coach, you'll be more successful if you keep a journal. I totally believe that.
Yeah.
I've had teachers at many different levels in the world of home economics, or whatever they call that field now. That it's been changing the last few years. And they have their students in high school and college keep a journal.
Hmm.
Um, my son is a mountain man and works for the uh, NOLS, National Outdoor Leadership School. And he takes 30 people into the mountains, the wilderness, and he counts how many come back. But he keeps a journal. He has all of his members who go with him keep a journal to get the reflection of the experience and maximize the opportunity to learn from nature. No
Exactly.
matter the field, I have lawyer friends who keep journals. I have um, psychologists who keep their own journals. It's a powerful, powerful thing. I have so many people in all different walks of life, when they hear me talk like this, say, well, I'm not a writer. And I just nod because I've heard that statement so many times before. And I just wait because they almost always get to the point. They're not used to being known as a writer. But when I talk to them, and they start to trust me, and I get out of them, but I have this story that won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be nice if I could write that? And I have learned just to be quiet
Hmm.
and nod my head
Hmm.
and let them tell me the story. And then I say almost always, gee, that was beautiful.
Hmm.
You want to use my pencil? I have
Yep.
paper.
Yep.
Write 2 pages before you leave and go home. And it's not about everybody has to be an English teacher. It's not about everyone has to have perfect penmanship. It's not about everyone has to be able to type at 100 words a minute. It's not about any of that. All you have to do is write.
That's right.
You remember our friend Horace, the literary writer Horace, who said, he who has hit upon a subject suited to his powers will never fail to find eloquent words and lucid arrangement. He didn't say everyone had to be a college graduate. He
Right.
didn't say everyone had to have the highest degree in their field. He said anyone who has hit upon a subject suited to his powers will never fail to find eloquent words and lucid arrangement.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
It is. It is.
I'm not teaching, professing any religion, but what I know of Buddhism, you can summarize effectively in 2 words: just begin. And I think there's so much about Buddhism and Zen and writing. Have you ever read any of Natalie Goldberg? Natalie Goldberg.
No, I'm not sure.
Oh, you should. You would, what I know of you, you would really like that lady's writing. And she starts with a journal. She touches on religion because she has personal questions that she's asking herself. And as she writes, she gets to know more of who she is. She gets into some Zen, and the process of writing, stringing words together, going from left to right in the English language, from margin to margin, is so much like praying. To a serious writer, you would really like Natalie Goldberg.
I can certainly believe that,
Albert Einstein, Time magazine in the year 2000 asked their editors to pick the #1 play, the #1 short story of the 20th century. And then, almost as a parting challenge, the managing editor said, "Oh yeah, tell me who the most important human being on the planet was in the 20th century." Like that was going to be easy. And they worked on that and worked on that, and they picked Albert Einstein because of his theory of relativity and how he changed physics and so many other things. But I really like the quote by him: "All religion, art, and science are branches of the same tree." Religion, art, and science are all on the same tree. They're just different branches of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, I'm convinced that if people write seriously in their own journal, sooner than they expect, they will touch on all 3 of those areas in the process of getting to know themselves, looking through that window pane that Orwell talked about, and then finding the lucid arrangement to tell their own personal stories that Horace talked about.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that journaling also helps keep your memory strong, to boost the memory?
Oh yes, definitely. What I have found is journaling leads me to stories that I really didn't know I knew. I've had in my personal family over the years been told stories that I've heard and forgotten completely. And then decades later, when I'm writing in my journal, it's like some of my family history came out from between the lines of my journal and erupted on the page. Surprise, here I am. You forgot about me, but I'm back. And I'm making fun of that, but there are some really important things that I totally forgot and never would have recalled if I hadn't used that process of writing. It's
Mhm.
almost like an archaeologist sifting through the dirt of a tell and finding a little ways under the surface an artifact, and dig a little deeper and there's something else, and then dig a little deeper and there's a bone, and dig a little deeper and
Yeah.
there was a creature under there.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
having fun with this, but writing is fun.
Yeah.
And the more fun you have, the more you want to do. The more you want to do, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah. And it's, it's your perspective on things too. I mean, my sister, my brother, and I all talked about the same subject of a family history matter. We had three
Mhm.
different stories, three totally different stories about something that happened. And I think, well, my point of view is important, but so is my brother's and so is my sister's. And so it's important, I think, that we all have that opportunity to share our point of view and examine that. And also think about, is there more to the story? What could be one thought could end up being a novel.
My memory is a challenge to me sometimes to get it to work. Um, the older I get, that happens, which is why I want to keep writing in my journal more so I
Mhm.
can see what I'm trying to remember. The famous Faulkner, the Southern writer, what
Mhm.
was the name of his, one of his best-selling books? He wrote from 4 different points of view. And I can't say the name right now. I apologize. Um, he wrote about this person dying from 4 different points of view,
Mhm.
and he thought that he failed as a writer because he couldn't get everything out from point of view number 1. So he started over, told the story again from another point of view, and thought he failed that way because he couldn't tell the whole story. Started a third time, failed. Started the fourth time and failed. And then basically said, oh, bleep, bleep, bleep. This is no good, but I'm going to send it into my book editor anyway. So he got all 4 uh, beginnings, wrapped them together with a string, put them in a box, sent them off, and said, well, I'll never see that again. And the editor sent it into the publisher, and the publisher liked the uniqueness of it and published it, and it was one of his best-selling books. And he thought it was an absolute, total, colossal failure. As I Lay Dying.
As Ellie died. Okay, yes.
As I Lay Dying. It's coming back, yay! And As I Lay Dying, William Faulkner. And I recommend that book to any serious author
Mhm.
who wants to improve his or her game and realize that some of the best writers have considered themselves failures. And yet the process of trying is what it's all about. Just tell the story. Just write.
Mhm.
You can't complain if you don't try.
That's right. That's right.
Have you heard of Octavia Butler?
Yes. Uh-huh.
You don't start out writing good stuff, she said.
Mhm.
You start out writing crap and thinking it's good stuff. And then gradually you get better at it. That's why I say one of the most valuable traits is persistence.
Mhm. It's
If
true.
you don't try, if you don't try, why are you complaining?
Exactly. I'm afraid that's come out of my mouth one too many times as a parent.
Yes, I'm guilty of that too.
We must try. Give it a good try.
Or we can all quote Mick Jagger. You can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you just might find that you get what you need.
Exactly. Well, David, is there anything else that you can think of about journaling that we haven't talked about?
The most important book ever written, many people think, is The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, goodness only knows how many books have been written. But for someone to say this is the most important book of all is making a big step. But most people would say that has to be one of the best books ever written, The Origin of Species, about how the human condition evolved and changed. But did you know that Charles Darwin was labeled troubled? And he couldn't keep a job. Professionals in religion, he thought about becoming a minister, and he thought about going into the sciences. And professionals in religion and the sciences said, oh, I don't know. He has lots of troubles. He was perpetually sick. His digestive system was always upset. His family worried about him all the time. I think his wife had to be a saint. Humans dislike being compared to apes, and he hid from crowds at times, and that has to be part of his perpetual illness, emotional upset. Goodness, with modern science, who knows what they would have found. Maybe ulcers and everything else from that psychological upset. He couldn't keep a job, so he worked at home. He hid at home. He was sick almost every day in his 30s, when a lot of times men get it out of their system if they're in that kind of condition by the time they're 30. But his wife continued to support him day after day. So he would always come back the next day and try to work until he couldn't because he was so sick, he had to go lie down. But he never gave up. He never quit. He always came back the next day and worked some more. And his wife constantly forgave him. And how often do we see hope overcoming despair? She had hope in him. And she was kind. Hope and kindness have helped so many people. He was such an introvert before people really understood what that word meant. And so here's this book that some people are saying is the most important book ever written by Charles Darwin, who had all of these negative qualities. And from day to day, nobody knew if he was going to be able to get out of bed because he was so ill. So what does that prove? It proves that if you never quit trying, if you never give up, there is always hope. I used to be so afraid of the blank page as an introverted, sick student, especially when I had to walk into English class, because I knew I was going to have to write on that blank page, and it made me ill. Just talking about it makes me ill. Bringing up those memories as a student. And now I have totally changed, and I see the blank page as an opportunity. And every morning when I wake up, I write my dream journal that the artist way taught me how to do. Before my feet hit the floor, I reach for my journal. I turn to a blank page. I'm still lying on my back. I'm writing upside down until my arms hurt so much I have to put my hands down because they're falling asleep. And if you just don't quit, if you never give up, if you just write, life is full of hope.
Exactly. Like you always say, right on.
Pick up our pen and salute.
Salute.
Right on.
There
And then I
you
have to
go.
spell it for everybody. It's WRITEON. Yes.
Exactly. Thanks, David. Thanks so
Thank you.
much.